What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Fantasy Football. My name is Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with Danny Carpenter. Danny, week 18. Obviously, it's not everybody's in fantasy football anymore, but there are some people that are left. And for those of you guys that are still playing in week 18 and had those questions, me and Danny are going to open the floor to you guys for about 30 minutes here to answer all those questions for you guys entering championship weekend. Danny, talk about some of the struggles being in week 18 and having to get together a fantasy lineup.
Well, you run into the point where you get somebody like the Eagles and the Chargers who are sending starters already, and you're looking for
Yep.
guys to maybe pick up or play in those situations. The only problem you're going to run into is they also have backup quarterbacks, or they may have some backup linemen in the game too, so they won't be able to score the same amount of points as your regular starters would. So you run in that situation. Now, as a DFS side, love this weekend just the fact that those guys are also cheap guys, so you can play them along with some of your studs that are still playing their games this week.
Yeah, I think DFS is definitely a great way to kind of go through and find some sleepers that could enter bell cow roles. I take a look at Jalen Wright from Miami with Devon A. Chain out. I take a look at Jaden Blue in Dallas, Malik
Mhm.
Davis, and Javante Williams out. And then I'd also take a look at Tank Bigsby entering
Yep.
this week for the Philadelphia Eagles. There are some guys that are going to get some major workloads and an opportunity to handle a workload. And I think in those offenses that typically provide that high scoring output, they will be able to elevate their fantasy production and have a nice day. So let's start getting to the questions. Obviously, drop those down in the comments section below throughout. Me and Danny will answer those as we go through. The first question of the week: can Rico Dowdle be trusted this week in fantasy football? What are your thoughts here, Danny?
Yes and no. Just the fact that you've got so many guys out that you could probably have to start him. The only problem you run into is how much as Hubbard's been playing the last few weeks. So it's been a little frustrating if you've been a Dowdle owner and all what he did with the weeks when Hubbard was out. So you're kind of in limbo right there. I'd say go ahead and start him. I've looked at some betting pundits and a lot of people are kind of liking the Panthers. So if they would happen to win that game, it's only a 3 point spread. So if they happen to win that game, they may need Dowdle to handle the workload and he could have a big game possibly.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle's got some money on the line this week in fantasy. He has a touchdown incentive. If he scores, he gets a big bonus. And then if he gets 7 more total yards, he also gets another massive bonus as well. So he's playing for those two things. Personally, for me, I am betting on him. I have him over in his first quarter rushing yards. I think that he's in a good spot there to potentially reach that with his incentives. And I also do, like you mentioned, like I like Carolina in this one. I think
Mhm.
Carolina is going to match up well with Tampa Bay, mostly on the defensive side versus struggling Tampa Bay offense. I think with Dowdle, the volume has still been there. The role has decreased a little bit, and he hasn't found the end zone in the last few weeks. I think this is a matchup where we could see Rico Dowdle provide some low end RB2 production and ultimately find a way to get in the end zone. Like I said, like low end RB2. I got him as my RB21 entering this week. Nothing crazy, but I think he can provide steady production with a bunch of your studs out and potentially go through and, win you that week.
Yeah.
Before we get into the next stuff here, we have a quick announcement for you guys. We are doing a fantasy football playoff challenge here. Interesting part about it, right? Fantasy football weekly basis. You can only use each player once throughout the entire postseason. You're going to be competing against me and Danny, right? There's only a $25 buy-in, and depending on how many people we'll get, will be the ultimate determinant of the prize pool. But the winner gets 55% of that prize pool. That will be on our website. Just go to blitzsportsmedia.com, check out the playoff challenge, and we will be going through providing some strategies for that because that's going to be a fun event and hopefully goes well first year and we can continue to build off of it this week. So it should be a nice little thing for us. JC here, shout out Brock Purdy, Jamar Chase, Puka Nakua, Jonathan Taylor, Marion Hampton, Harold Fan for helping him win his second straight league championship. And thank you guys for your assistance. JC, I just wanted to say thank you tuning in every single week. We're going to be having a ton of off-season content, so hopefully we see you on those lives and in the future on some of the videos as well. Appreciate you, and I'm glad that you got a big-time championship. We're getting into the good questions now. Aaron Hernandez, thoughts this week, Danny? Can we start him?
No.
The all dead team, we might be able to put him in our
Yeah,
lineup and
exactly.
figure
Yeah.
out how to get him in there. Deontay Thornton, our GOAT, he's back in here.
Yep.
Spawn, Deontay Thornton, or CD Lamb this week. Listen, I think 2026 might be a different year for Deontay Thornton and the fan club. He might finally find his way to the end zone. And if Pete Carroll's gone, who knows? He gets more volume this week. I think this
Mhm.
does actually lead to a serious question, though. Like you look at CD Lamb and some of these other guys, Danny,
Yeah.
for Dallas. Do you think they meet their production, or do you think potentially some of these guys take the foot off their gas this week?
I don't think they do. this year recently, I was listening to another DFS podcast, and they said there hasn't been a single Dallas quarterback ever lead the league in passing. And as of right now, Dak is leading the league. I think he has maybe like a 140-yard lead. So if he just puts up a 200-yard game or even a 300-yard game, more than likely he's going to win out. I think he's he's ahead of Stafford. I think is who the person he's behind. And Stafford may not play. It may be a situation where they're scoreboard watching, may not play a whole game and stuff. So I think Prescott stays in the whole game and he puts up some big numbers. And I know Blue's going to be handling the running back stuff, and they haven't really trusted him all year, so they just may pass the ball the whole game. So who knows
That's
what
true.
their
The
thoughts going to
Giants,
be
the
against the
Giants
Giants.
look like they're openly tanking right now. I mean,
Yes, exactly.
there's a video circulating of Theo Johnson, their tight end, who's missing this game with an illness, was at the Knicks game last night. Not a great look there. And
No,
they're resting some other guys as well in their lineup, and they just have been inconsistent on defense. So I think with like Dallas, like I'm not concerned. I think
no.
even though they're not playing for much, these guys are going to go out there and have a good day in
Yeah.
fantasy. PPR need to JMO or Luther Burden. Uh,
Mm.
so he's got to start both of them. Okay, PPR, just pick one of these two. Who are you going with?
I would go Luther this week. Just the fact that his production's been well. Who knows how much Roman Duesday is going to play again this week? He only get practice on Friday, so the chances of him probably playing is probably a little more slim because saving him for the playoffs. I think Luther could have another big game against that bad Detroit defense right now.
Yeah, I got JMO just slightly over Luther Burden. I think Burden has a great matchup. I think he's a solid play this week. But Jameson Williams, like the production he has had throughout the second half of the year has been very close to wide receiver one worthy. Those top 12 guys. He's had that production. He's been really good. I mean, last year and earlier on this season, Williams had really solid production against the Bears, allowing some of these plays to go through in these big type of shot plays against Chicago. I remember last year I was at the game and JMO had a massive long touchdown against this Bears defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this week with Amon-Ra St. Brown banged up, it could be Jameson Williams' time here in Chicago. And I think that the Lions offense could play spoiler this week. I know the Bears are riding high right now, but this is their last game of the year. The Lions seem like they've been close. They just haven't been able to get over the hump this year. And they also match up really well with the Bears. So I think it's going to be a tight, high-scoring game with obviously the Lions' defensive struggles. Give me Jameson Williams, and I think Luther Burden is also a really strong play as well entering this week. Mendoza to Thornton, 90-yard touchdown week one will go hard.
There you go.
That is going to be the interesting part. Like obviously
Yeah.
the Raiders are trending towards that number one pick unless they beat the Chiefs, which very possible. That's going to be literally the Cheeks Bowl between two of the worst teams in football this week. But Mendoza might, if he goes number one, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with how strong he's played this season, and leading a team like Indiana to potential national championship is very crazy. And I think Las Vegas and obviously Tom Brady is a big part of what they're going to do over there. I'm going to be interested to see who Las Vegas goes with that quarterback next year. Baker or Goff this week, Danny?
Oh, that's actually a pretty tough one right there. Look here, it's where Goff was for my. His matchup's good against the Bears for one thing. Mayfield are in a must-win situation. I probably lean Goff because Baker just hasn't been Baker the second half of the season since he's injured, and they've been struggle a little bit. They're probably going to put up points in that Chicago game. The weather's not supposed to be as bad, even though it's in Chicago and stuff. I'd probably go Goff on this one.
Yeah, I got Goff just slightly higher. Like
Yeah.
I have both these guys as players to probably avoid this week with Goff's only averaging 12.2 points at Soldier Field in his career. Not ideal by any means, but Baker just hasn't been very good down the stretch here. He's been the quarterback 21 in points per game. Like just not a good season from Baker. And last time they faced, he was right around that mark as well. It just seems like this Tampa Bay offense is out of sorts right now. Baker's not playing great. Jared Goff is at least playing really good football outside of last week. He got destroyed by Minnesota, but other than that, he's been playing really good this season, top 5 in passing yards, touchdowns. He has a good matchup against the Bears. I'm not going to say that, but historical suggest it's just not been great at Soldier Field. So I would go Goff slightly over Baker, but I would temper expectations. Do the Lions care enough to play spoiler? Absolutely. If you
Yes,
think
I
Dan
think so, too.
Campbell isn't going out there ready to beat Ben Johnson and sweep him for a little bit of regression and maybe a little bit of revenge for leaving, I'm telling you, dude, the Lions versus the Bears is a game I don't want to bet on because I think both these teams are a lot closer than people think
Yeah.
and could go either way. I think the Bears have found ways to win games they probably shouldn't have in a lot of these games, and the Lions feel like they have had some injuries on defense and they're just losing games that they didn't lose in the last 3 years. So it's a
Yeah.
close matchup. I think the Lions could pull this one out. And don't expect them to take their foot off the gas. I'm just
No,
telling
and
you
they
that.
may not punt in that game either. So,
No, there
it may
might
not
be no
matter
punts.
where they are in the field. They may not punt.
Cold weather game in Chicago, no
Yeah,
punts would be insane. All
yeah.
right. Standard PPR, Jonathan Taylor or Jaden Blue this week?
I'm still going Taylor. It's hard to go against what he's done this year. I know he hasn't second half of the season's been a little more down for him, but Jaden Blue, he, they brought him in to be the guy behind Javonte Williams, or possibly be the guy, and he never did fill that role. And got Malik Davis in the pitch and getting the number 2 spot as the season went on. So I'd probably go Taylor.
Yeah, I got Taylor too. I mean, I think Blue the biggest thing with Blue is I love the matchup. I think
Yeah,
he's going to have a good day, but does he not play on third down? Does he miss out on some of these valuable touches because he hasn't really had a bell care role? I understand that he's probably going to see 12 to 14, but is he going to play on third down? Is he going to have any receiving work? I think he does get some early down work, but I'm not convinced he operates in a full workload for him to be a RB1 entering the week. Taylor, low end RB1 in my books. The Houston matchup is not pretty by any means, but I think that with Riley Leonard at quarterback, especially, they're going to do everything they can to help him out.
yeah,
And Taylor has been much more involved as a receiver since Phillip Rivers entered and Daniel Jones went down. I do think he has some receiving upside. And obviously, if he falls in the end zone, there you go. There's your 20-point performance from Jonathan Taylor right there. So I think with Taylor versus Blue, I do have my concerns with Blue's potential workload, but I love the matchup. He's a strong RB2 play. Taylor, low end RB1, tough matchup, but he's going to have the volume and should have some receiving work as well to go with it, leading to a probably pretty solid performance against Houston as well. All right. Yeah, good point right here. Taylor is going for the rushing
yeah.
title,
That too.
100%.
Yes.
They're going to try to get their boy that rushing title in general. Shout out to JSN, Puka, McBride, K9, May, and friends for making my team 14-0, beating everybody by 130 a week. Yeah, getting that team is insane, and throwing Kenneth Walker in that group is also insane as one of the guys that carried your team this year. Think about it though. There are some teams that walked away in a draft with Puka, JSN, Trey McBride, found late running backs like
Yep.
Rico Dowdle, right?
Monta Williams.
Like there are some crazy teams out there that just always every year have a great draft, hit on every single pick, and go
Yep.
through that. I know one of my teams, I got lucky to where I was able to snag in the 12 team Puka, Devon A Chain, JSN in my first 3 rounds. And obviously we all know how those 3 did this year. And that's kind of that's how it all works out. Like
Yep.
when everything
Exactly.
goes right in fantasy football, you have that dominant team and can run the table. But we all know draft day is hectic and there's a lot of unknown heading into the year
Yep.
and can be a little bit crazy. All right. Brock Purdy in the rain or Caleb Williams this week? This one's tight for me.
Yeah. It really depends on the wind. The rain is not that big of an issue. It's the wind, the big thing. If the wind gets pretty windy and rainy, then you have some issues. It's pretty so hot right now, and Kittle's supposed to come back and play, and it just adds another mouth to feed for them, and just makes them hard to cover. I'd probably lean Purdy right here, and Caleb has a decent matchup against the Lions, bad defense as well too. But I just go with the hot hand with Purdy. He's what he's done since coming back from injury has been incredible for 49ers, and that's why they have a chance for the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I think with me personally, it's kind of the matchup based thing. I think with the way Brock Purdy's played, it's hard to bench him. Like I had him as a league winner entering the playoffs, and obviously look how it turned out. I was right on that one. Just the matchups alone, Purdy was able to dominate and have some gaudy numbers in those games. The 49ers offense looked like they were unstoppable. This is a little bit different of a matchup. They're going against Seattle, one of the best defenses in football this year. Pretty much limited them the first time they played all the way
Yeah,
in week one.
that's every chicken.
Um, and now they're on the road. I think that the 49ers offense has a good game, but I don't expect them to put up the amount of points, the amount of yards, how easy it's been. I don't expect that against Seattle this week in a divisional matchup. Caleb Williams has a great matchup against a banged up Detroit Lions secondary that has been one of the worst in the NFL over the last 2 months. Caleb in good matchups this year has put up quarterback 1 numbers outside of good matchups. Like he's been one of the more predictable guys. Like when he has an easy matchup, he has a great game in fantasy due to his legs, due to his air production being consistent. When he has one of those tougher matchups, he's very clear that, oh yeah, this is not the week to start Caleb. This is the week you want to start him. I have him as my quarterback 4. It's a great matchup against Detroit, and I think he's ultimately going to cash in on that performance and have a very strong day in fantasy football.
Yep.
All right, Justin Fields or Tua Tagovailoa? Miami Dolphins questions right here. I do want to talk about this though.
Yeah.
With Tua Tagovailoa, Danny, do you think this is the last we've seen of him as the starter for the Dolphins?
Yeah, I think it is. He may be the last we've seen of him being a starting NFL quarterback. I don't know with the injuries he's had, hasn't been the same guy since the concussions. And he's probably good enough to be a backup in NFL, to be a starter anywhere. Probably not. I mean, he's a little gun shy. Doesn't seem like he takes the deep shots which are needed in the NFL, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. I thought Quinn Ewers has looked decent
Mhm.
through his first few starts in the NFL. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but he's shown a little bit that hey, maybe we can develop this guy and he can play. I'm not sure if he reaches an elite ceiling, but it's too early to tell with him. With Tua, I think we all know what we get from Tua on a weekly basis. It's just like middle tier quarterback play. At best, he's a top 12 guy. At worst, like he's losing you games because of his inaccuracy, his decision making, and not being able to push the ball down the field. You got to think like this Miami team when they were in the playoffs, they had everything he needed to be successful. They had a top rushing game in the NFL. They had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Their defense was okay, but offensively, you had every single piece you needed alongside a good offensive line to be successful. And Tua was a really strong quarterback this year, but it still wasn't enough based on his play. So I think with Miami, they're going to look at it. Mike McDaniel didn't draft him. I wouldn't be surprised if they just eat the dead money, kind of like Denver did, and try a Denver style rebuild of eating some of the dead money, hopping on to the next generation. Obviously, they have some young talent in Miami to build off of. So
Yeah.
I think you're right. This might have been the last time we see Tua Tagovailoa in the Dolphins uniform. All right. Second game of the championship, down by 5 points. Full PPR, two running back, two wide receiver, one flex. He's got Gibbs, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson, Bucky, Mason, Jaden Blue, stacked running back room, Pickens, Diggs, Ted McMillan, BTJ, and Parker Washington. Danny,
Wow.
lineup combination here. What are you thinking?
Oh my goodness, that's some tough choices for the running backs right there. I think you go Gibbs. He's safe.
Yeah.
He's due. I mean, like you said earlier, Goff has struggled a little bit playing in Chicago, so they probably lean on the running game a little bit more there. Chase Brown has been a monster here the last few weeks. I mean, nobody's really talked about him. He's been, I think it's scored 20 points in the last
He's
three
been the
games.
RB3 in the
Yeah,
second half of the year.
yeah. Travion, I mean, you still don't know what their split's going to be with Stephon. I like Bucky this week, but that's on a limited game schedule just for DFS wise. But Mason's getting the starting job. Jadon, mm, I Gibbs and probably Brown for the running backs. For the one wide receiver, it's Pickens. I mean, you can't ignore him with that opportunity against the Giants defense. I know Parker Washington's have been huge here lately with Trevor Lawrence, but I'd probably go Pickens, and Parker's probably the close second. So it's probably Parker Washington as the flexing, probably in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough.
Mm.
And honestly, like you got to lock in Gibbs and Pickens with how good they've been over the last, or over the course of the season. Obviously, Gibbs has been alternating great games with bad performances against Chicago. It's going to be a good game. You saw what he
Yeah,
did in week 2 against this team. He's going to have a really strong game this week. Pickens, right? He's been great this year. He's been exactly what we hoped for in the drafts, and he's had that production that ultimately you just can't bench him in your lineup. As far as the other guys go, Chase Brown, you got to ride the hot hand. His
yeah,
receiving workload paired with his rushing and how consistent that's been over the last few weeks and how the Bengals offense has performed with Joe Burrow at quarterback, like all that combination, Chase Brown has to be in your lineup alongside Jahmyr Gibbs. The other receiver, it's tough for me. Like Diggs and Parker Washington are awfully close, and I love Diggs' matchup. Oh man,
that's a tough one.
yeah, I'll go Stephon Diggs. He's also been another guy that's very hot. Obviously, the off the field stuff is something I don't think that
Shouldn't have bothered.
affects him in his production this week, but next year it definitely will and probably impact something. But get Diggs in your lineup alongside him. And then the flex. I like Parker Washington this week, but give me Jordan Mason in
Okay.
that flex spot. I love the matchup against the Green Bay backups. Obviously, JJ McCarthy's back in. He's ready to go. And I want to see this Vikings offense, who has been very reliant on their defense, continue that hot streak and winning streak and show that their offense can beat up on a bad defense and have that consistent performance. That'll make me feel a little bit more confident in Justin Jefferson's bounce back next
Yeah.
season and how they can play going forward. So good lineup heading into there.
Yeah.
championship game tight end play, Brenton Strange or Michael Mayer, Danny?
Two good choices. Let's see here. Jacksonville. It's truly a coin flip probably on that. I'd lean Mayer. That's just a gut feeling on that part. Strange just had some opportunities, but there's nobody else really in the the Las Vegas offense to throw the ball. And Mayer was targeted 10 times last week and caught 9 of them. So I go Mayer.
I'm going Strange here. I'm riding the hotter hand of the two. Like, he's just been a consistent tight end one since returning from injury. The biggest concern with me and Mayer is that the Chiefs are playing a majority of their guys on the defensive side of the ball. While the defense has been average this year at production overall, they've been really good against limiting running games and limiting tight end production and fantasy purposes specifically. So with Mayer, I do think that he could be in for a bust performance this week against Kansas City. I know they don't have many options, but they just have much better matchups on the outside with the Chiefs missing a ton of cornerbacks entering this week. So I'm going to go Brenton Strange. I think it's a great matchup against Tennessee and ultimately puts you in a really strong spot with some consistent volume there. All right, lost so many starters: Barkley, Olave, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, man, Tez Johnson, and Darren Waller.
Yeah.
This is the reason why a lot of people don't play in week 18 is there's a lot of incentive to sit guys out if they're not in playoff contention, and there's also a lot of people that don't have anything to play for the Eagles do. That the interesting part for me, Danny, and I talked about this with Dan on the podcast, was the Eagles make no sense. They can play for something this week because the Bears have a tough game. They could jump up to the 2 seed, have another home playoff game, and play the Packers, who we all know are decimated with injuries entering the postseason, or you get the 3 seed and you play the Los Angeles Rams, who might just be the most talented team in the NFL this year. Explain that to me and why the Eagles are resting their starters.
Yeah, makes no sense to me either. I don't understand that part of it. I mean, you're still playing for something, especially that difference between the 2 seed and 3 seed could be big time just for that first round game alone, let alone going into the second round when you have to play against. I'd rather have the home field advantage, plain and simple. I mean, if the top 4 seeds are there, I'd rather have the home field advantage. You're not going to have it if you're the 3 seeds. That makes I understand because you want to rest guys, you want to save them because they've wrapped up stuff so early, but you kind of do that earlier in the season instead of the last game when you still have something really to play for.
Yeah, and the Chargers on the other side makes more sense.
Yeah.
They're a wild card team. They can only jump up like 1 spot, maybe. Right? That makes a little bit more sense for me. But with a team that has a potential home playoff game in the balance in a matchup, a significant difference in a matchup, it doesn't make much sense for me. It kind of goes to show you like how Philadelphia, I'm not going to say I don't think Philadelphia's run very well over there. They have so much talent. It just feels like they always misutilize their talent outside of last season where they had the best roster and they were able to win a Super Bowl. This year you see like with subpar offensive coaching, right? This is kind of the version of the Eagles you're going to get. All right. Need to pick one wide receiver: Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and Higgins. He's got Ramondre Stevenson at flex, so I can't put one of them there. Can you or can't you? I think you'd be able to.
I think you'd be able to as well.
Yeah, well, who are you looking at the wide receiver?
It'd probably be Diggs. Just go with the hot hand. I know Jefferson's like 60 yards away from getting 1,000. He could have a decent game as well too, but be Diggs. Higgins kind of struggled against the Browns in his career. I don't almost want to go Diggs and Jefferson. Goes Diggs as wide receiver and Jefferson as your flex spot. Just Henderson's back this week, so he's a little more healthier. So how much are they going to split between him and Stevenson? And actually, Henderson actually got more touches in the running game last week. It's just Stevenson scored the touchdowns. That's the difference.
Yeah. I think Diggs is your play with how good he's been over the last few weeks. If it is T. Higgins, right, I think you put him in that flex spot and you rock him in against Cleveland, and then you have Justin Jefferson on the bench out of that grouping. If it's Jaden Higgins, right, then you're playing Justin Jefferson over Jaden Higgins. And I think Jefferson and Stevenson are close, but I would lean Justin Jefferson in that case with the backfield split between Trevion and Ramondre in that backfield. So I would go those two guys in that situation. All right. Need lineup advice: quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receivers, super flex, tight tight end team, Parker Washington, CMC, Chase Brown, Jaden Blue, Colson Loveland, Juwan Johnson, Vikings pass. And then his quarterback situation is Lamar, T. Law, McKee, and Ward. So, Danny, I'll have you go ahead and you do the quarterbacks, and I'll knock out the other ones.
Okay, yeah, the quarterback is Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Lamar hasn't been Lamar this year. McKee plays well when he's played for the Eagles and stuff, and Ward's not the same as Lawrence. You might as well ride the hottest hand probably in fantasy football quarterback right now, besides Drake May. And that's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence, you lock him in at quarterback. I personally in Superflex, I almost always go quarterback. So
Hmm.
I would go Lamar at quarterback. I mean, him as your second quarterback in a Superflex still puts you in a really good spot. I mean, he's my quarterback 9 this week. I know his production hasn't been Lamar-esque this season, but I think he's still a strong Superflex play entering the week. As far as your running back situation goes, you lock in CMC and Chase Brown with how good those two have been in this situation. Then, as far as his receivers go, Michael Wilson, T Mac, Parker Washington, Burden, and Sutton is close. I think Michael Wilson without
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr., like you get him in that situation.
Yep.
As far as the other guys go, like they're all close for me. Like
Yeah.
Sutton as my wide receiver 12. Who's he got? Tedero McMillan, wide receiver
Yeah.
16. Luther Burden, wide receiver 18. Parker Washington, wide receiver 23. Like
Yeah.
those are all great plays this week. So I would personally go Wilson, Sutton, and then honestly, I'd go Burden over T Mac this week. I think Burden is probably a higher upside play than T Mac. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah. Uh,
And then at tight end, we got Jawan Johnson or Colston Loveland. Who are you going there?
Going with Johnson. Yeah. Show's got to throw to somebody, and Johnson's going to be the guy besides maybe Austin, maybe. So that's that. I would go. Is it Austin? All right, I get him mixed up here. Yeah, Kevin
Who?
Austin Jr. Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
yeah. It's Johnson and Kevin Austin Jr. So he's got the third ball too. So Johnson, I go for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you in that situation. Johnson should be in for a really strong day. It's been really good since Tyler Shuck took over at quarterback. As far as the defense, go Vikings. They're playing the Packers
Yeah.
backups. They've been one of the best defenses in football over the last month. Go ride the hot hand there. I know
Yeah.
New England has a good matchup as well, but Miami still has the capability to score some points on a good week. All right. Henry or Pitts at tight end. He likes Henry's matchup more, but Pitts has been on fire as of late.
Mm. It's probably going to matter who's maybe be able to play the whole game. If the Patriots come out and score 28 points in the first half, they may not play their starters in the second half this week, and that may limit the upside of Henry. I'd probably lean Pitts just the fact he's probably going to play the whole game, just on the safe side. Safer floor. Henry's going to probably have a little better upside just because he get the better quarterback, but his floor is probably a lot lower.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a situation with Kyle Pitts being a guy that you can't bench, which is crazy to think about. Everybody wrote Kyle Pitts off, and he's been
Yeah,
one of the best tight ends down the stretch here. Probably the second best tight end this season overall. So Kyle Pitts, he's been really good overall this year. With Hunter Henry is 5 receptions away from a big time bonus. I do think that plays into how much he's utilized, and the matchup against Miami is also good. So I do love his matchup, but you go Kyle Pitts in this situation. His volume with Kirk Cousins at quarterback has been great. His production has been great. You just got to ride the hot hand and trust one of the best tight ends of the 2025 season. Question from our boy Dan here. Who is your fantasy waiver wire player of the year?
year.
The
Mm,
year? I haven't even thought of like
I haven't thought that either. It, If you wanna go down the stretch, I'd say Kenneth Gainwell, just the fact what he did with
Kenneth
Terry
Gainwell's been
those
really
offense
good
late
down
in
the
the
stretch.
season.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's somebody we're probably missing from the beginning of the season that's had a huge year that off the top of my head,
Michael Wilson's a name
yeah,
that
probably Wilson's another
bummed
one too,
people a lot
yeah,
of weeks. Kyle
yeah,
Pitts was off of waivers for a lot of people. Um, Trying to think, Rico Dowdle was a great waiver
yeah,
pickup for a lot of people this year. Quarterback wise, Drake May was drafted in a lot of leagues, but if you got him off of waivers, he was pretty good. Trevor Lawrence was a big waiver wire
yeah,
pickup. So there's some names for sure. That's something that I typically do next week where I kind of go through, get my award ceremony ready for the 2025 fantasy season. We're gearing up for the fantasy football playoff challenge. Get those guys ready and look into those. But there's been a few ones this year. There's always a few handful of league winners. And
yep,
I think Trevor Lawrence is a big one. Kyle Pitts is a big one. Michael Wilson, Rico Dowdle, all guys that were going extremely late in drafts that went on to have RB2, wide receiver 2, tight end 1, quarterback 1 production. It's exactly what you're looking for off the waiver wire. All right, what defense you starting this week, Danny? The Jags or the Pats?
Jags or the Pats? Jags going against the Titans. Pats are against the Dolphins, and they're both on the road, aren't they? I believe so. No, Jackson's actually. I lean Jackson. Let's go with the home team on that part. There's New England actually home too. New England's home too. I go Jags. Just a better matchup. Dolphins have played decent with the rookie as quarterback right now. It's good at Jags. I mean, their run defense should shut down the Titans and make Cam Ward's last game of his rookie season a little more of a headache.
Yeah, I like the Jags as well. I think the Titans' offense has been better, but they still gave up 4 sacks last week. Cam Ward still had a turnover, so they're allowing fantasy production to defenses. The Jags have had one of the 8 highest pass rush win rates over the last since week 8, I believe, is when it is. And their defense has also been very opportunistic, second most turnovers in the NFL. So go the Jags. I think they're in for a great matchup in this week. Steven, thanks for tuning in. Second half championship winning 176 to 119. Let's go. Second year in a row would be big time for the program.
Yes,
BLZN, appreciate you tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys on our next one. 2 positions. He's got a wide receiver 2 and flex options. He's got Mike Evans, Tank Bigsby, Terry McLaurin, Luther Burden, Darius Slayton, or Jaden Blue. Who are you going with out of this grouping?
Seems like Mike Evans always has a big game against the Panthers when it's late in the season. It seems like Mike Evans, wide receiver. Flex, probably leading. If it's confirmed that the starters aren't playing in Philly, I'd probably lean Bigsby. He could have a big game against the Washington off defense, which has been awful all season and stuff. There are other good. I mean, Burden should have a decent game. Slayton should have a decent game. Blue should be decent. But I'd probably go Bigsby. He's probably got a little more upside. Just the fact he may be he'll probably split a little bit, but he should see the majority of the carries in that offense.
I like Mike Evans. You get Mike Evans in your lineup right now. He's still having that wide receiver 1 usage that you want to see. Carolina, he didn't have a great game a few weeks ago, but his production has been strong enough that he should be in your lineup regardless right now. As far as, the flex option goes, there's a lot of solid options in this grouping that I like. Personally, for me, I think Luther Burden has the highest upside of the trio there between Bigsby, Blue, and Burden. I think Bigsby has a strong workload, but I also think Will Shipley mixes in a good amount for Philly, and they're going to have a backup offensive line and for an offensive line that has really been inconsistent on the ground this season. So I wouldn't say the Eagles offense is just going to have great production. This offense has struggled this year. Now they're going with backups against a starting defense. I'm not sure Bigsby has the biggest day in the world. And then Blue, same type of situation. I do think he mixes snaps in with other guys. He plays a lot of the early downs. I like his matchup a little bit more, but I would go Luther Burden in this one. He's got the highest upside. He's the hottest hand in this Bears offense right now. And the Detroit Lions secondary has been an absolute mess over the last 2 months. I would go with him. Devontae Adams this week, if he plays, you're starting him.
Yeah, exactly.
The chances of them letting him go this week are not super high. But if Devontae Adams goes, you get Devontae Adams in your lineup with how good he's been this season, and you live and die by your stud.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Should I start Tyler Shough or Lamar Jackson this week? What are your thoughts, Danny?
I'm going Shough. I mean, I know Lamar's Lamar, and they're actually favored against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So the Steelers have always limited Lamar. So that's probably another thing I'd probably go with Shough. I mean, and I think the Saints are kind of pushing, trying to get him the rookie of the year, which if they started him a little bit early in the season, he may have had a chance, but maybe a little too late. But I think they may try and pad his stats a little bit. So I go Shough this week.
I think I would have said Tyler Shough before Chris Olave was announced out. He doesn't have any receivers now. And Atlanta's defense has actually been really underrated over the last 2 weeks, limiting passing production. Their pass rush has been strong, and they started to play well as just as a team overall. They're winning these games. They're sitting at 7-9 now. I think that the Saints might be a bump in the road for the Saints and Tyler Shough, just without Chris Olave. I think Kellen Moore and Shough have been great. Lamar, I just have him slightly higher. I know he struggled against the Steelers. I know his production has been down as of late, but it feels like he's been playing at his floor, right? Lamar Jackson genuinely could win you a championship if he returns to fantasy value in a must-win game for his team. he just has a little bit of rushing upside. And I like Lamar just a little bit more than Tyler Shuck entering championship weekend. All right, last question here. Choose two between Dowdle, Bucky, James Cook, Tank Bigsby, and Jaden Blue. James Cook, probably not going to play much, if
Yeah.
at all, for the Bills. What are your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. If Cooks would happen to play, he may only play a half, if that even. So then it probably comes down probably between Dattle, Bucky, and Bigsby. I'm still not going to go Blue, just the fact we don't know on the workload. So I'd probably go Dattle and Bucky. They just got the safest floors. Uh, they're going head to head against each other. I know it's kind of you don't want to do that in fantasy, definitely in DFS, unless it's just two stud running backs and do it. But I'd go Bucky and Dattle on this one. Yeah, they have the best floors, plain and simple, and probably the better upside of the other guys.
Yeah, it's tough here. I think there's a lot of options in here that I think is interesting because like I literally have all these guys clumped together. It's
Hmm.
crazy. Like all these guys are just clumped together in my rankings, and it's gonna be tough. I don't love Bucky this week, but I think that like out of this grouping, he's not a bad play at all.
Hmm.
I would go Bucky, and then man, it's tough. I think with Dowdle, his ceiling is capped, right? I
Yeah,
think
probably
Tank
so.
Bigsby and Blue can give you a higher ceiling than Rico Dowdle this week. If you were asking me which one I like out of Bigsby and Blue more,
Yeah, that's where you get.
that's where it's tough.
Yeah.
I think I see both reasons. I would go Jaden Blue, and I think here's why. We don't know, like Dallas is down so bad in running backs right now
Yeah.
that Blue in a great matchup against the Giants probably has the highest upside over Tank Bigsby. I think Will Shipley plays a role in this offense this week, and I don't love their offensive production potentially against the Commanders with their backups in. So I would lean Jaden Blue and Bucky Irving for those two running backs. For wide receiver, I have Puka, CD Parker, Burden. Should I take out Puka depending on the Seahawks game? If you will know for sure whether or not he's playing or not
Yeah.
by the time you can make this decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there's an announcement that the Rams are resting their starters, you just sit him, right? And then make the adjustment there. But like you will know based on kind of what happens tonight where the Rams are probably leaning, and then kind of make that adjustment for there. Devontae Adams was my waiver wire comment of the year. My option is I have Puka. If you're getting Devontae Adams off of waivers this year,
Wow.
that would have been
Yeah,
great.
insane.
I think he's one of the he was like a third to fourth round pick, and he was a great steal
Mhm.
in drafts. If you got him off the waiver wire, wow,
Yeah.
that's insane. All right, PPR RB2. Do you think James Cook is going to play? If not, RB2, Blue, Wright, Bigsby, or Estime? He's got the grouping of the guys there off the waiver
Yep.
wire. Me and Danny are both in agreement that James Cook probably is not going
Yep.
to play his full workload this week. And out of that group, there's a guy that really hasn't been mentioned that I like this week. It is Jalen Wright for the
Right.
Miami Dolphins. I think he is in for a nice workload, and he's shown some things as of late that he's starting to be a little bit more productive. What are your thoughts?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree right there too. Wright's probably the best play of those guys right there. I know we talked about Blue having the opportunity. And the thing with Dallas, they only have two running backs on their roster right now. It's Blue and Limpke, or how you said the fullback's name. That's it. The only other guy they have who's on injured reserve, so I have to activate him in order to have three guys. Uh, but yeah, I'd probably go Jalen Wright. Just the fact that HN's out and what he's done when HN has been out. He played well against the Jets 3 or 4 weeks ago when Etienne got the shoulder injury early in the game, and he proved that he can still play. And won back the number 2 job in that offense he did.
Yeah, 100%. Appreciate you tuning in, Anonymous. Hope to see you another time on these videos here. Do you think CD is a good play this week? If not, who would you throw in, Burden or Parker? CD is a great play
Yeah,
this week.
great play.
He is a must start. He is my wide receiver 4 overall. So
Mhm.
there's only 3 other players that I would start over CD Lamb this week. It is Jamar Chase, JSN, and Puka Nakua. He's going to be in for a monster game against this bad Giants secondary and should provide you a Week 18 championship. All in all, though, guys, appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Make sure you guys go to our website, check out the Fantasy Football Playoff Challenge, compete against me and Danny in that challenge, and work towards that prize pool. Ultimately, though, we will catch you guys next time here on Blitz Fantasy Football.